Welcome again to our YouTube channel. Our God is sufficient for all. Our God is sufficient for all. Have you ever thought of something we can call an idle faith or idleness of faith? It is understood that the Christian faith is meant to shape the lives of the believers. That the Christian faith shapes the lives of the believers in their public life, in their interactions with the people, in their encounter with the world. That they are in this world, but they don't belong in this world because they are shaped by the faith they believe in, the faith they profess. But at sometimes, that Christian faith that is supposed to shape the lives of the believers becomes idle. And somebody will ask, how can you say that faith can be idle? Faith can become idle when we succumb to the temptations of evil, or when we succumb to temptations, even when we have lived a life of high moral standards, that we have held ourselves to a very high moral standards. Sometimes we are tempted and we succumb to temptations, or the attractiveness of temptation takes over and we are tempted. That moment when we have succumbed to temptation, our faith becomes idle. That's an idle faith, because we know the right thing to do, but we have succumbed to temptation. So our faith is paused for a while. It's not active anymore. It's not shaping our lives, even with those high standards of moral standards in our lives that we have set. Sometimes we succumb to temptations. For example, those who are in business, sometimes they may, or some may succumb to fraud in business, or infidelity, or for those who are in academia, dishonesty in scholarly work, or plagiarism. That sometimes we succumb to temptations and therefore our faith becomes idle. Idle faith. Christians are called to a life of integrity. Christian integrity. But sometimes we find ourselves in a position where we are powerless. Powerless against evil. Powerless against the attractiveness of temptations from the evil one. Sometimes we find ourselves powerless. And at those moments when we have become powerless, still we have faith, but our faith is idle. It's not actively shaping our lives. The faith is still there, but the faith is idle faith. It's not actively shaping our lives. Integrity is very important for a Christian. It's not enough just to have faith. It needs to be actively influencing and shaping our lives. It is not enough to know right from wrong, good from evil. Having a moral knowledge is a great thing. But it's not enough. It is not sufficient to have moral knowledge. It's not sufficient to have faith. It must go beyond. It requires active watchfulness. Our faith requires active watchfulness. Active watchfulness against evil. Active watchfulness in doing right. Active watchfulness in avoiding evil. Active watchfulness in always striving to do the right thing. And in case we have failed to do the right thing, we are quick to recollect ourselves and do the right thing. Dust ourselves and start walking again. Active watchfulness against evil, active watchfulness in doing right, active watchfulness in avoiding evil. That's what our faith requires. Sometimes the power systems around us, demand that we may ignore the right thing to do. The power systems around us, sometimes they may push us towards shriveling of our character by ignoring the right thing to do. Our character shrivels due to the power systems around us that push us to ignore the right thing to do. And when that happens, we succumb to temptations, to the attractiveness of the temptation from the evil one. Idle faith. Sometimes our faith can become idle when we misunderstand the faith that we profess, or we misconstrue the faith that we profess. When we do not know what exactly the faith demands of us, what exactly faith teaches, our faith demands of us, what does it teach us? Do we understand the true faith? What does the true faith, what does it teach? When we misunderstand our faith, the true teaching of our faith, we are easily providing rich grounds for all kinds of temptations. Rich grounds for all kinds of temptations. So for us to avoid idle faith, for us to avoid idle faith, there are some things we will have to do. One, practice active watchfulness against temptation. And as we have that active watchfulness against temptations, against evil, we must strive always to refine and understand our faith, the true teaching of faith. The true teaching of faith. When we have the true teaching of our faith, and we are actively watching against temptation and against evil, we allow the faith to shape our daily lives by actively choosing to do the right thing, even when the power systems around us encourage us to ignore the right thing to do. Even when we do the wrong thing, there are no consequences, but we have to say, no, I will have to do the right thing. Active watchfulness against evil, active watchfulness against temptations, knowing our true faith so that we act according to the true teaching of our faith, to avoid idle faith, a faith that is not actively shaping our lives. The moment you discover that whatever you are doing is not accompanied by what you believe, by your faith, then your faith is not active. Your faith is idle. There's no moment you can put your faith aside and then come back for it. Whatever choices you make, whatever actions you take, whatever decisions you make, whatever choices you choose, they must have a bearing or a basis in your faith. I want to do A, B, C, D, but what does my faith teach about it? I want to support idea number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, but what does my faith teach? I want to support this policy, this other policy, but what does my faith teach about it? I want to support this cultural change or this idea that is in the world today, but what does my faith teach about it? That's what we call active faith. But when you are not using your faith in your life, in decision making, in life choices, in the choices that you choose, then your faith is idle. Yes, you have faith, but your faith is idle. If you find yourself supporting something that your faith does not teach or does not allow you to support, then you have suspended. Your faith is not active, is idle. That I'm going to support A, but I do not know what my faith teach about it, that means your faith is not active. That means you have misunderstood your faith and you have not allowed your faith to form and shape your daily lives. Idle faith. Do you have active faith or idle faith? Those factors must be considered for your faith to be active. Understanding your faith, number 2, after understanding what your faith teaches, you are not misunderstanding it. Have active watchfulness against evil. That always that faith that you have understood allows you or is the basis of your decision making, is the basis of your choices that you make, is the basis of the decisions that you take. Whatever step you want to take, what does my faith teach about it? I want to venture into this business, but does it violate what my faith stands for? For example, if I were to start an abortion clinic, the question is, what does my faith teach about it? It's a business. I can make money. But what does my faith teach about it? I want to be a chain supplier of condoms. But what does my faith teach about the use of contraceptives? It is still business. I want to start selling About visions, it's a business, it's lucrative, it makes money for me. But what does my faith teach about it? So every decision that I make, I will have to ask, what does my faith teach about it? I want to have a concubine, but what does my faith teach about me as a priest? Looking for a beautiful, sexy lady. What does it talk about me, the faith? What does it teach about me? What's the discipline of me being a priest? That I have to understand my faith, know what my faith teaches, and whatever steps I make in life, I base my decisions on my faith. That I have a springboard from which I sprint in life, and that is faith. Faith is my foundation, my basis. Therefore, I'm free to make those choices based on what I believe in. Christian faith to actively shape our daily lives. And we have to differentiate that knowing is not enough. Knowing or having moral knowledge is not enough. It goes beyond by being actively watchful or active watchfulness. Active watchfulness. May God bless you and avoid aid of faith. We shall talk about it maybe a little bit more, but for now I think that's enough. Idle faith. Know your faith. Have active watchfulness against evil, against temptations. That your faith is the basis from which you make decisions and you make choices.